Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So there's a story in Genesis. You've probably heard Jacob's ladder. And it says Jacob had a dream. And when he awoke, he said, Surely Adonai is in this place, and I did not know it. And he called the place Bethel, the house of God, the gate of heaven, the place of holiness. We too, even on Zoom and this crazy Zoomiverse, we too meet on holy ground. For that place is holy, where God is found, where lives touch, where love moves, where hope stirs, where we rationalize our need for one another and rejoice in our closeness to one another, where we take on the pride and the pain of our companions, each bringing strength to the whole.
It's known as the Mystic's Poem, the prayer of the Kabbalists, traditionally done right before entering into Shabbos in full, right after Kabbalat Shabbat, right after the entry point. The idea is that every word is supposed to be a name for the divine, and every verse is supposed to be a name for the divine, and every paragraph is supposed to be a name for the divine. Right? It becomes kind of a mission statement for the mystics. Can we speak in a way that everything that we say, everything that we do, is somehow divine? Rinat amcha sagvenu tarenu nohora yay ray 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 yum didi ray 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 oh yum didi ray 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 yididum yididay ray ro yididay ray ro yididum yididay ray ro yay ray ray ro Anna bikoach gedulat yemincha Tatitzerura Kaberinat Rinat amcha sagvenu tarenu nora.
Oh, Shabbat Shalom, Larry and Monica and
Dory
and Autumn. I know you're there, even though I don't see your name because I know you're there. So Shabbat Shalom again to everyone. If you want to send us a little message, we have the chat open. And so we are going to continue with Lecha Dodi. Chadodi is all about this coming together, this union of the Jewish people with the partner Shabbat. It's also called the Shabbat bride, but it could be a Shabbat partner. But really it's that partnership, that connection that's expressed in Chadodi. So this is called Blessing the Marriage by Rumi. This marriage be wine with halva, honey dissolving in milk. This marriage be the leaves and the fruit of a date tree. This marriage be people laughing together for days on end. This marriage a sign for us to study. This marriage beauty. This marriage a moon and a light blue sky. This marriage is silence, fully mixed with the spirit.
Dodi likra skala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likra skala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shomo v'zachor b'dibur echad ישמיענו אל המיוחד אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. שם תפארת בלי תחילה, לך דודי לקראת סקלה פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת סקלה פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו מלאכה, כי מכל הברכה מראש מקדם משוכה. סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה, לך דודי לקראת סקלה פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת סקלה פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת סקלה פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי כי באור לקום יורי 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 שדברי. כבוד אדוני אלייך נגלה, לך דודי לקראת סקלה פני שבת נקבלה. 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 בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת סקלה פני שבת נקבלה. ידעי
think I learned not to look at the chat during services.
If you look, you giggle. Exactly.
Yes, that
it's
was
impossible.
Jolene. Yes, we know, Autumn, you were very happy. And Sarah, yes, we are also concerned about the squirrel, but the squirrel is totally fine. So you should know that.
Some of us have more squirrel concern than others. We make a separation. We move out of the warm-up, out of the preparation, out of Kabbalat Shabbat and into Shabbos. Ready or not, here Shabbos is, right? Though, of course, right, we say that, but I'm such a Heschelian on this. Abraham Joshua Heschel, who used to talk about, of a blessed memory, that Jews don't build palaces in space, we build palaces in time. And that's what Shabbos is, a palace in time, which the idea is, of course, that, right, if we don't build it, it doesn't get built, actually.
If you don't build it, they won't come.
So, yeah, we make the separation with Chatzi Kadesh. We go through a little bit more of the liminal, a little bit through a little bit more of the wandering before we make it into Shabbos. Nope.
Yeah.
Yitkadav Yikadash Shemei Rabba Be'alma Divrach Chirutei V'yamlich Malchutei B'chayechon U'v'yomechon U'v'chayedecho Beit Yisrael Bagala Bagala U'vizman Kariv V'yimeru Amen Yesh Rabba Mevorach Le'alam Olam Me'amaya Yitbarach Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yipa'ar V'yidromam V'yidnaseh V'yitada V'yitale V'yitala Shamei Dekudesha B'richu Leila Min Kol Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Damiran Be'alma V'imeru Amen.
We continue with the words of the Baruch Hu as even though we might be far apart in distance, we still call each other to prayer as if we're sitting next to somebody in synagogue. So we call each other to prayer now. We call each other to a community with the words of the Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach I always think of it like that picture that was taken by the space probe that we sent out. I think it was Voyager, maybe. Karen's laughing because we've been watching Star Trek Voyager for much of the past few months.
That was a joke. The name of Voyager.
Voyager. So I think it was Voyager that went out past Pluto. And there's this picture. I love this picture. It's a picture that it turned back around. It actually was a waste of precious resources, right? To make it turn around. Electricity is at a huge cost. And so it turned back around and it took a picture of Earth. And when you look at it, right, this is a picture within our own solar system. Not outside of our solar system, not, right, any of these other stars in the sky, but within our own solar system. And it turns back and it looks at Earth, and we are a tiny gray blue dot in the corner of this picture, like a piece of dust almost. And right, there's something so profoundly awe-inspiring. I think this is what Rambam Maimonides meant when he talked about awe. Right, looking up at the heavens and just feeling so existentially, powerfully small. I know this can be, some people don't like this feeling a lot, right? Kohelet, Ecclesiastes is also my favorite book in the Hebrew Bible, so maybe this is just a streak in me, right, with a similar kind of idea. But I think there's a power to it. I think there's a power in just backing away from ourselves, even if we just do it for a moment, twice a day during Shema and its blessings, where we see ourselves and everyone we've ever known and every problem that we've ever known and every problem that history has ever known, and we back away and we see that it is all one small, tiny, pale blue dot, even within our own solar system. Roll into dark, roll into light, night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light, night becomes day, day turns to night. Boreum valala, golelo mibne choshev, golelo mibne choshev, v'choshev
Shema, the word Shema literally means to hear. But I think we all know that hearing is not listening. And yeah,
sorry,
Mike,
I'm thinking, yeah, we're both thinking the same thing. Yes, we have a 9-year-old and 2 7-year-olds here with us. Yeah.
Hearing is sort of automatic, whereas listening is understanding the words that you are hearing. It's when you pay attention. So to listen that intently, we have to still our mind and our body so that we're not distracted. Our hearing should be so focused, so intense, and so deep that we no longer are aware of ourselves as a separate person doing the listening. To listen and to love. Listeners need to move what they've heard with their ears and understood with their minds and move it into their hearts. This is the kind of listening that the Shema requires. So when we cover our eyes, we think about the oneness of the Shema, the oneness of community and of humanity, and we listen, and we move breathe that into our hearts.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 So we say the V'ahavta together, our reaffirmation that we have to walk the walk, that talking the talk is not what counts in Judaism. A reminder that it's our impact that matters, right? This is the whole idea of tshuva, I actually think. This word that we translate as repentance. But I think the whole idea of tshuva is that it doesn't matter that we didn't mean to hurt. We have to reckon with the hurt that we caused, and we have to do the work of changing to become a person who doesn't cause that kind of hurt anymore. So we say these words together, reaffirming this idea. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם Adonai Elohechem Emet. Jewish prayer originally is just two things.
I got my order mixed up. Sorry.
Jewish prayer originally is just two things. It's the Shema and its blessings, which isn't even technically considered prayer by the rabbis of the Talmud, and the Amidah, which we're about to do in a few moments. The political, outward-facing part of our prayer, the thing that the rabbis do in fact call prayer. But in between there's this custom that emerges. The Talmud talks about in Tractate Brachot. We've been studying it on Tuesdays. And there's this idea of the rabbis that before we move from the personal of the Shema, the reflective of the distance between the people we have been and the people we are called to become, before we move on to the political of the Amidah, the gap between the world as it is and the world as we are obliged to make it, that But first we have to remember having been enslaved people in the land of Egypt. And even Deuteronomy begins with this. We see it early on, this idea that it's dangerous to become comfortable in the land, because when we become comfortable, we forget. We forget that commandment, which is the most repeated commandment in all of the Torah, that you shall not oppress those who are vulnerable in society, because you have been vulnerable in society. So before the Amidah, before any of that, we have Mi Chamocha, our song at the sea.
We continue with Hashkivenu, which we don't usually think of as connected to Mi Chamocha in any way. We usually, probably, at least I normally think of it as sort of a standalone that's about being watched over at night, which is a scary time. But I came across this great teaching when I was looking up some Passover stuff, and I found it, you might have to help me with the history of this, but it's in the Orach Chaim, which was written by
Beit Yosef.
Beit Yosef.
You can also,
Which is a short version, I think, of the Torah. Maybe, but it's by Rabbi Joseph Caro, and it's really a condensed version of Jewish law, trying to understand Jewish law. And so,
among the very early codes that tried to take the Talmud, which is really unwieldy,
okay,
and turn it into something,
Yeah. So, he has his own work, Rabbi Caro, and he writes that in the Talmud, Rabbi Yochanan says that we need to follow Mi Chamocha directly with Tefillah, which is the Adonai Sefatai Tiftach. So he says we need to skip over Hashkivenu. But we can see Hashkivenu as a pause and as an extension of Mi Chamocha, as an extension of us moving into our redemption. So we connect these two because it is taught that when God casted the plagues on Egypt, there was great fear among all the people. It was dark, it was a scary time, and so they prayed. They prayed that the angel of death, the final plague, would not come to their homes and inflict death upon them. And so the connection is that Hashkivenu is the reminder of that fear that was felt while we were praying for our safety just before we were set free and we were able to take that journey. We sometimes don't think about the feelings of the people in the Torah. We read it, we think maybe about the bigger characters, but if you can put yourself in that moment, in that darkness, there was a lot of fear. And Hashkivenu asks that we be watched over when it's dark, and we be watched over at times that are more fearful.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom v'hamidenu somreinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom hamidenu somreinu lechaim. Allow us to lie and rise in peace. Shalom. Allow us to lie and rise in peace. Shalom. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom v'hamidenu somreinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom hamidenu somreinu lechaim. The Rabbi Randy part, come on.
Do we do that part? And you have to, yeah.
Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright now. Everything's gonna be alright. Frosalenu Sukkah. Sukkot Shlomecha, Ufros Aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha. Cover over us tonight with a Sukkot Shalom, a shelter of peace
For
you and those you love, a Sukkot Shalom over all creation. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom hamidenu somreinu lechaim.
we move into tefillah, into that time where we open up our hearts and allow ourselves to connect to something greater than ourselves, whatever that looks like for each of us. It's sort of that time where we can maybe admit those things that we don't want to admit, or explore those things that we don't want to explore. It's really personal time to think back over the week, think about who we've been and who we want to be.
תהילתך אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי אגיד תהילתך Adonai, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for Adonai, שפתי תפתח ופי אגיד תהילתך Adonai, open my lips that my mouth may speak words of praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'imotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Leah Elohei Rachel Elohei Bilha Elohei Zilpah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Konei Shamayim va'aretz.
So we take a little bit of time for ourselves. You can follow along with the CRCC door if you want to on our website. It'll take you through the Amidah or the Tefillah, or just take a moment and close your eyes and take a deep breath and open up your heart as we make our way into a prayer for peace. Peace for ourselves, peace for our world, and peace for our communities.
Shalom b'mroma, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru Shalom b'mroma, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, Israel ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן ואמרו אמן.
So before we move into the concluding blessings of our service, we take a moment for a Misha Berach, a prayer of healing to anyone and everyone who needs it that we're thinking of. I was actually just thinking about how there was another mass shooting and how I want to send certainly blessings of healing to anyone and everyone affected by that.
And affected by gun violence. And every time that all of us who have been affected by gun violence encounter more news of gun violence, it's more trauma, right? Over and over again.
And if you're feeling kind of like how we're feeling, we do have a gun violence chavura at CRC that specifically focused on making change in this issue. So reach out if you want to be a part of that. But we're sending healing blessings to so many people in our community. We're sending blessings to Rick Hack, Gail Rock, Evan Richards, Carrie Schulman, Susan Schroeder, Ron Fagerstrom. Oh, I'm going to pause for one moment. If you want to add names in the chat. Thank you, Autumn. You're so on top of this. But add names in the chat. I'll say them after I finish our congregational list. Debbie Zorinsky, Dr. Richard Burns, Julie Stevenson, Toby Schreiber, Everly Ray Bierman, Corinne Char and Baby Mindel, Meredith Berkowitz, Gail Hollifield, Tom Fox, Michael Davenport, Sherry Hugler O'Donnell, also known as Cher DeLune, W. Hodding Carter III, Roshan Batman, Kay Wolpert, Bob Cohn, Louis Kidder, Rhonda Banford, Andy Neiman, Tom Collinger, Zach Collinger, Judy Markey, Dr. Powers, Choco Guniva, Ann Rudy, John and Karen DeGuire, Gerald Chervitz, Anita Stiffelman, Judy Medoff, Lev Reynolds, Mark Benkendorf, Jean Isserman, Kathy Davenport, Linda Reikus, Alex Hochberg, Michelle Long, Judy Underhill, Stacy Abelist, Ann Snyder, Janice Marks, Charlie Moss, Faye Cohn, Sandy and Ham Cohn, Maya Gila Batrivka Yocheved, the daughter of Becky Zool, Eileen Ehrlich, Dick Hart, and Tiana Keys. Greg Indress, Lisa Howard, and Rudy Nissenboyle. Michael Kiernan.
May the source of strength who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage
Blessed, Baruch atah Adonai Rofei HaCholim. Blessed are you, source of creation, who enables us to bring healing to those who need it the most.
So there is a, before we say Kaddish, there's a line from the Torah portion that we read. It's not the normal weekly Torah portion. Because we're in Passover, there's a special reading for this day of Passover. Oh yeah, thank you, Larry, for the Capitol Police officer who died today.
Thank you, Larry.
There, in this Torah portion we have this week, this special Pesach Torah portion, we get really this sort of action sequence of the Exodus story. We get the chase out of Egypt. We get the coming to the Red Sea, the parting of the sea, making it to the other side. We get Mi Chamocha. We get the song at the sea. But the piece that stood out to me is it's just one pasuk. It's just one verse. But they stop on the way, and they get Jacob's bones to bring back. Jacob's bones, Joseph's bones. They both go back.
It's Jacob. One of them's big. It's Joseph.
Exodus 16.
It's Joseph because. Okay, I'll double check.
Yeah. Either way, it struck me, right? Like, this is what such mourning delayed. Right? He had died hundreds and hundreds of years before this, and his bones had been there, and yet we hadn't been able to mourn. And it just kind of feels a little bit like this COVID moment, where one of the things that has been taken from us is the public mourning of being together, right? It's not enough that we experience loss, but then to experience loss and to not be able to gather. And I keep thinking of all of these sort of bones that we are carrying with us, even as we, God willing, more and more of us are vaccinated, and it becomes safer to go out, though not yet, obviously.
Bones of Joseph.
The bones of Joseph. All of these bones that we're going to be carrying with us that we need to find a way to bury too.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's like such a verse we normally skip over.
Yeah, you skip over it here.
We don't really talk about, but it's like it connects our patriarchs to our Exodus story.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a big, important verse, and you're right. Like, those things we take with us.
So we share the names of those we're thinking of. If you're thinking of someone right now, if it's their yard site, if it's the year of their anniversary, if you're just thinking of them and feeling them, please share their names in the chat.
So before we share all these names together, I'm going to read a poem by Hannah Senesh. There's stars up above, so far away we only see their light, long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. So, as a congregation, we remember John Kepler, and we remember Lou Ashraf, Shirley Sewell, Gil Nussbaum, Fran Hyman. We remember Virginia Laraca and Mary Ellen Mem Mavshen. Remember Shirley Gerchin, Jose Maria Velasco, Morton Wechsler, Lizzie Pressburg, Louis Myers, Mel Padower, Jack Oglander, Robert Fauser, Erwin Pollack, Carl Wiley, Ann Fetterman, Emily Engelhardt, Connie Wacker, Alvin Nissenbaum, Tammy Kevrick Keim, Marcial Pollack, and Bernard Tobin.
Ed Berg and Mrs. Booker.
Eric Schonman, George Minkovich. We have a few yahrzeit for the week I'm going to mention before we join together in the Mourner's Kaddish. For yahrzeits, we have Stella Goldstein, Harry Multack, Jonathan Garfield, Gerson Jacobson, Alan Gleiner, Carolyn Peterson, Thomas Singer, Molly Perso, Albert Tota, Irving C. Dickens, Bess Feigenblatt, Sydney Kamen, Mildred Kaiser, Erica Liesenring, D. David Neff, Mary Rosenberg, Fred Brown, Dan Fiducia, Ruth Friedman, Marlene Heckman, Erin Kurland, Beatrice Michles, Jen Mills, Sadie Rosen, Joe Schulman, Joy Littman Ward.
George Mankiewicz. And so we say these sacred words that is, as Rabbi Susan reminds us, they affirm life, even as we mourn those who are not with us. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, b'agala v'zman karev v'imru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam olamei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kedusha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min Shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. Amen. And Rudy, I'm sorry, Bob Plager as well, of a blessed memory. Blessed memory.
So we say, Zichronah Livracha, may all of those that remember be a blessing. So before we end our service, just a few announcements. Tomorrow morning, along with Shabbat morning services, we will be observing Passover Yizkor. So that'll be at 10 a.m. If you want to attend. We will also be counting the Omer in a moment. But if you want to count the Omer in the mornings, Rabbi Susan and Jim will be counting each morning at 9:30 a.m. On Facebook. And there's a new time for Havdalah, so if you've been joining Rabbi Susan and Jim for Havdalah, it will now be at 8 o'clock because of the time change. Sun's setting later, so Havdalah will be later. On Thursday, April 8th at 6, the Tikkun Olam Circle and the Gun Violence Chavurah are joining forces for a virtual presentation by Gail Wechsler on Advocacy Training 101 for gun violence prevention.
And if you don't know Gail, go. She's amazing and inspiring, and
and we have another. Sarah Heyman is also very involved in.
Oh yeah, of course.
Gun violence as well.
Also amazing and inspiring.
Yes. A big shout out coming up Thursday, April 8th, in honor of Yom HaShoah, which is Holocaust Remembrance. We have our very own Vera Emmons, who will be sharing Never Forget One Family's Holocaust story, and she'll be interviewed by Paul Wagman. So that's April 8th at 7:30. If you've never heard Vera tell the story, you have to go. It is so moving and so beautiful, and she is a wonderful, wonderful speaker. So I hope you're able to go. Also coming up next Friday is Shabbat Kulanu, which will be our gathering on Zoom with all the rabbis and Shabbat service. That'll be at 6. We have Triple Chai a week from Sunday, which is also on gun violence and gun safety. And we have a new university series this month in April. The theme is spiritual enlightenment, and we have amazing guest teachers. So we have Rabbi Ed Harris, we have Rabbi Rachel Contraster, We have Rabbi Zach Fredman and Rabbi Capers Funyay. So you should definitely tune in. This is such a special month, and all of these guest teachers are just going to be amazing. And just a reminder that on Sundays we have No Shanda, No Shame at 1 o'clock. And Inner Judaism with Rabbi Jim on Wednesdays. And the next CRC Cooks is April 11th at 10 a.m. It will be a double demonstration class. Hopefully inspiring you when we can have people over again and host people.
Did you mention Shabbat Kulanu?
I did. It's in 1 week. Second reminder. That is all I have. If you have anything else you want the community to know about, please go ahead and put it in the chat, and we will end services with the words of Adon Olam.
Adon Olam, Hashem alach, b'terem kol yitzir nivra, li'enasa b'cheso kol hazameh. אחרי כי כלור הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה בידו אפקיר רוחי ותישן ויעירה ועם רוחי גביעתי אדוני לי לא יירא אדוני לי לא יירא.
Shabbat Shalom.
And
One quick announcement because
and we got to count the Omer.
we have to count the Omer, but Rudy asked a question on the chat. So you do need to register
For
the
Shabbat
service
Kulanu.
For Shabbat Kulanu. It's on our website. We will have our very own member, Miriam Raskin, sharing her poetry during that service. And if you want to order yourself dinner or challah or some other yummy, delicious things from Ardo Copus, that will be open. It's all on our website. So we hope you will join us any way, shape, or form that you are able for next Friday night.
And so we count the Omer, which are these days. It's actually a biblical commandment. It's one of the most ancient practices. We count all of the days between these two great festivals.
I'm counting with my workbook, but Daniel doesn't.
You love your workbook, and I'm glad that you love your workbook.
Yes. But if you're also using the workbook, let me know so we can talk about it.
I totally forgot what I was saying. The Omer.
The Omer.
We count between Pesach and Shavuos. We count between Passover, which is this moment of liberation, and Shavuos, which is this moment of obligation, right? Shavuos is all about Sinai, is all about receiving Torah. It's all about sort of having a vision for the way that we are obligated to make the world. And that's very different than freedom, right? I mean, talk about an American kind of conversation here. And so what we do during this time is we take a spiritual practice where we move from the openness of freedom towards that sense of obligation towards each other, towards the world, towards the future, towards our present, towards the past. And so we mark each of these days. We mark our journey from individualism towards communalism, from the loneliness of freedom to the freedom of obligation. So we say the blessing together. And sorry, we didn't have it to put up, but we'll have that for next week. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer.
Today is the 6th day of the Omer, which is 0 weeks and 6 days of the Omer.
And there's a question. Stacy Kramer wants to know what workbop.
Oh,
Karen will put a link in the chat in a minute. Go grab it. Yeah.
I'll go grab it. It's just in the other room. Just give me 1 second.
So we count each of the Omer. The other teaching I really like about the Omer is that the Omer it's presented as a mourning period. The first 33 days in particular are this mourning period, and then we have, I won't give the whole teaching since she's back.
This is what I got.
But then we have Lag BaOmer, the 33rd celebratory day, where it's traditional to celebrate with bonfires.
We'll be doing that.
Yeah, we're hoping to make that happen.
This is the workbook I got. I happen to really love things like this. It's
Scoot back, you're gonna.
Well, you couldn't see it. It's a 49-day self-care immersion workbook. And I'll just show you, it's divided into each week. Each color is a different week. And so it gives you things like this. So today it says...
Are you going to show it? I'll put it up there.
I was going to read the teaching. It says, when a strong relationship encounters a disagreement, it can fall back on a shared experience or connection to reinforce the loving bond. Today is the day to build on those loving foundations. Trying a new thing together, sharing new stories, and discussing important life decisions can build on your foundation. A relationship that relies on a foundation and only exists on recalling memories and inside jokes will not strengthen its foundation. So then it has the blessing, and then it says, reflect on a new experience you've had with a loved one. Perhaps you cooked a new recipe together, went somewhere neither of you had been before, or read a new book together. Notice how this novel experience deepened your existing bond. If you can't think of one that's meaningful, plan a new experience for the future. So for every day, it has a teaching, a mindfulness action, the blessing, and then a place to journal. So if you want to join me in doing it, I'd love to talk about it. Just let me know you've ordered it or you're making your way through it, and we'll set up a Zoom.
And let's give each other a blessing.
Yes.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May we be blessed. May we be kept safe.
Yeah. And may you take some of the light that hopefully we all felt by being together in our own places and put it out into the world.
Shalom. And most of all, may this be a Shabbos of peace, a Pesach, an end of Pesach of peace. And to quote Tari Nusanov, next year in a more just world. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Zis in Pesach. Chag Sameach.